Hi, you're watching a very special recording of Agenda AWANI. I'm right here at the Asia Euro Institute of University Malaya. And in the days of Malaysia Baru, we want new ideas and we want to, keep up the old but put in some new stuff. I've been to Asia Euro Institute before, thanks to them, for a lot of knowledge-based events. And today is one such one where we have a very important minister from Ireland, the Honourable Richard Bruton. Thank you so much for making time. And in Malaysia, whenever you say it's the Minister of Education, they're one of the more popular ones. So I don't know about the Minister for Education and Skills in Ireland, but so I want to tap the local fervour to make a vis-a-vis comparison in a way. But Agenda AWANI is one of the only Malaysian media accredited to be inside the World Economic Forum, whether it's in Davos or at the ASEAN level. So when it was coined as the fourth industrial revolution about 3 years ago by Klaus Schwab, the founder of World Economic Forum, a lot of Malaysians are like, what? They know the previous one, but the new one is sort of a bit more murky in that sense. But 3 years on, many of our leaders, many of our academics, professionals and also corporate executives are talking about it. But I want to go back and reset it all the way back before we talk about flying cars without drivers, before we talk about how there will be sensors in our bloodstream that will notify our GP straight away before we even go and see them. At the end of the day, anything that's new will disrupt the old. And the old most probably going to include a lot of human beings. And we've seen the ride-sharing companies, for example. In Jakarta, when the first ride-sharing services were put out, there were hundreds and thousands of taxi drivers on the street. Malaysia is a bit more low-key. We only have a few thousand at most. But I'm going to ask you this. The main concern and worry this side of the world about the fourth industrial revolution is a lot of people will be losing their livelihood. From taxi drivers to educationists, because of online studies and online learning, to automation in the factories, whereby smart factories of the future will use less and less human being. And it is said that 3/4 of the jobs that will be available in the next 5 years, within the next 5 years, are not even around right now. So as the Minister of Education and Skills, how do you look at the future with the fourth industrial revolution and prepare your country, your nation, your young ones for this disruption?
Well, I think you have to try and take responsibility for that and plan for it. There are vulnerable sectors, clearly, and I think in those vulnerable sectors we have to work with enterprises to look at their existing workforce and how they can be upskilled to meet the challenges of an oncoming revolution that will come into their sector. I think we also have to look at the areas where the new digital economy creates huge opportunities, and there's no doubt there are enormous opportunities coming as well from the new models that are emerging. You look at Netflix, for example. It has created a whole new model of distributing that has been a huge boon to many small scale producers, that suddenly they can get access to a worldwide audience, and that spawns a lot of creativity. So there are upsides and downsides, as in any change, and the challenge, and particularly in the area with some responsibility for education and training, is to ensure that we equip young people with the flexibility to adapt, and that we invest in the reskilling where it's needed. And I think that's what Ireland has successfully done. And you look back over our own history, where we started out, it was largely very basic assembly type work was the model. That has been displaced very rapidly over the years, and we now have most of our industrial base has moved to high value sectors. That is a migration that you have to support through your education and training policies, and manage the change. I also recognise that there are going to be issues about how governments regulate the power of some of these technologies around privacy, protecting people, being fair to people, and some of these models will have to have fresh look at employment law and other areas to ensure that these technologies are genuinely delivering to the needs of our people, and not that we aren't seeing just the downside, we're seeing the upside. And I think there is a challenge for lawmakers, and it's now global lawmakers, to ensure that we regulate these sectors as well.
Do you think education sector will be the hardest hit among others, because you have a bureaucracy of teachers and leaders that govern schools and also agencies of education, whereby nowadays you have universities like the Singularity University in Silicon Valley that don't even give out PhDs or masters or degrees. You have level 42 in France that only give problem-solving accreditations, because they think that the connective thinking in the future will be more vital than anything that can be done with your hands or your feet, for example. So yes, in the next 5 years, it seems like we can move and adapt, but some are saying beyond that, it's all about disruption all the way, because even now students are teaching their teachers in classes in Malaysia how to use Excel sheets and PowerPoints, because they are the generation born straight away into the digital world, whereby the teachers of 30, 20, 25 years, for example, have to adapt. These young students of theirs are straight away digital natives. So how do you look at that planning for not just the next 5 years, but education in the medium to long term?
But I think successful education in a digital age isn't just about digital natives getting into a capsule on their own and thinking they can create their own abilities. A lot of the opportunity that this offers is how you become creative, how you interact with other people, how you solve real problems and work together with others, work across different silos with people of different skills to resolve those answers. So I think education won't be so transformed that you see the human element, the leadership of good teachers won't be thrown away by new models, but they will be teaching in new ways, and they will be encouraging their students' curiosity, their research capability, and they'll be seeking to develop that in their various disciplines. So I don't see that as, if you have well-motivated teachers, I think they will recognize that they have to adapt their teaching methods to equip the young people of the future generation with those skills. But we do have to support them, and I think there will be a lot of teachers who are trained maybe 20, 30 years ago, for whom the methodologies will have to change and they'll have to learn new ways. But we're fortunate, certainly, and I think generally people who are attracted to be teachers are highly motivated. We have to create the environment where they can adapt and offer those new.
Okay, let's bring this scope down to a bit more tangible stuff, like examinations and results. If you look at the OECD, and Ireland is also ranked in its mathematics or science subjects, but there are school of thoughts even in Malaysia that that's not the best way to measure capacity of students, because if you look at countries like Finland, who have gone very high up in the world of education of the world, they do not even have examinations until maybe the age of 16, 17 or 18, and yet in Malaysia even kindergartens have examinations. So I'm going to ask you that in Ireland, how do you look at that? Because more and more it's about skills and the cognitive ability rather than being able to memorize by rote learning and then dumping them at the exam once a year or once in 3 years or once 5 years for the major exam. And employers are saying, look, you could have a degree, but I have to reskill you all the way back to ground zero and start again. But if you look at the modern way of doing things and revolutionary way, exams are outdated. How is Ireland approaching this?
Well, we are introducing changes in the way we assess and we're trying to reduce the pressure of exams by introducing project project-based work which will be done in the classroom over a long period, and where people can develop their skills, can get feedback, can perfect them, and they are assessed in a different manner. They're not assessed by a terminal exam. Now that has been very successful and has been embraced by the teaching profession as releasing them from the straitjacket of teaching to the test. So I think there is an appetite to bring that further. That's only been introduced for students up to the age of 15. The next challenge will be to bring it to the 18-year-old. Yeah. That at that stage, that is a bigger challenge, because as you probably is the same in Malaysia as in Ireland, that is a high stakes exam which largely dictates your ability to access quality third level education. So it will be a bigger challenge to work with both teachers and schools to make that change. But I think part of the responsibility falls back on higher education itself. Okay. It can't be using as a convenient entry measure the terminal exam results and rely exclusively on those and build up that pressure to have good terminal exam results if what it wants is students who have the creativity. So I think it's not just a responsibility of the second level sector to amend and reform its system, it's also the third level sector have to recognize that if they want to have a more creative pipeline, they can't be lazy in the way they measure quality, and they have to open up their access system to a more flexible way of allowing students access. I think that's on its way as well. We're taking, we have introduced a lot of measures that, for example, allows people who are further on in their career to reskill, completely reskill. We need to have a richer and more diverse system of access, that it isn't just the terminal exam.
I like the word diversity. I'm going to go there, but just a small question. Here in this country, we had a lot of debate whether school kids can bring mobile phones and iPads and other tablets into school. You have had to make that decision in Ireland. Can you share with us? Yeah,
well, we haven't made a decision to ban them. The French government, as you probably know, have made a decision to ban them. At the moment in Ireland, surveys of primary school-going children up to the age of 12 shows that in 87% of schools they are banned as a matter of school policy. We're currently consulting with both schools, asking schools to consult with their parents as to whether we should go further. Some of the teachers will tell you that if we exercise a ban, but come 4 o'clock, children have access to the mobile phone and they're using it in a way that is not conforming with an acceptable use policy, then you're undermining the work of the school. So I think we need to evolve policy. I'm not a big fan of bans as a way of dealing with this. I mean, this is a powerful tool. Correct. I think the challenge is to ensure that the power of the tool is used, but the young person is protected from the abuses that can come with it. And I hope that good policies evolved between parents and schools themselves through this consultation will be a better response to deciding that the ban is going to come from KL and be sent all out around every school in the country. That's not a good strategy in my view.
Mr. Bruton, here in Malaysia, people like to be called, if they are young people having their third or fourth company, as serial entrepreneurs. I like to call you serial minister, because you've held so many portfolios since the 1980s in politics. So I want to tap into that long wisdom that you have. And on the issue of diversity, Asia is clearly, and data from the World Economic Forum also supports that, going to be taking over the engine of growth of the economy of the world. And economy is your field of profession. So diversity is key, because if products and services from Europe, America, or wherever else is going to come to Asia, Asia is such a diverse market, population, people, religion. And you've helped to deal with this in the issue of religious education, for example, in schools or in the education system of Ireland. Right here in Malaysia, we're also grappling with that. So what's your view on diverse learning and diversity and inclusivity of learning since maybe kindergarten right up until universities? Because the product that needs to come out in terms of human capital would have to come into a world where Asia might be leading the engine of growth, and that means Chinese languages, that means Islam, Muslim, Sharia compliant product and services. But how do you have that in your education system?
Well, I think you have to follow parents' choices. You know, parents in our system are recognised in the Constitution as the primary educator. And what's happening in Ireland is that there is a growing diversity of what citizens expect from the education system. We have a predominantly religious ownership of our schools, religious patrons, and I think people are saying they want a more diverse system. So what we're seeking to do is to encourage that diversity and see a change of patronage, a growth of more diversity of offerings within the school system, so that more parents get access to the choice they want. So my attitude is, you know, it's not for me to try and impose a diversity, but to create an environment where that diversity emerges responding to parents' needs. So every time, for example, we open a new school, I have a consultation with parents of preschool children to identify what sort of a patron they would like, and that dictates the choice that's made. So, you know, I think it's we need to respond to the needs of our students and parents. I think that is the principle that should largely inform how we develop policy.
Regardless of the education, we have to be ambassadors of where they come from. And my friend who's been to Ireland before swore that that's the part in the British, for example, that's closer to Malaysia, is green, you know, the people still know one another, close-knit. But how would you like Ireland tourism, education, or anything else to be known to these parts of the world? What kind of identity would you want it to have, especially with Industrial Revolution 4.0, because the digital identity might be representing you more than the physical identity in the future. We will know you from our social media accounts. We will know you from the scandals and conflicts or bad things that happen on news, on digital, because it travels like, you know, wildfire. But if you had a say and you had control, what and how would you like Ireland to be known to these parts of the world?
Well, I think the strengths of any education system that you try to create are the strengths you would hope your country would be known for. So, you know, we want to see discerning people, we want to see people who respect diversity, and those are the sort of citizens we seek to cultivate. We want to cultivate people who are smart and solve problems in smart ways, who contribute to global challenges. That's the sort of Ireland that we hope we are creating, and that similarly is the sort of tourism that we want to offer. It is one that respects visitors, offers them a different experience, builds on our very natural, strong natural heritage, our food, our green nature, our low density of population, our fantastic scenery, but recognises also this other dimension of Irish character. And I think the reason Irish people are successful when they travel is that they are problem solvers. They fit in with other people and work with them, and that's, we have according to the statistics, 70 million people in America regard themselves of Irish origin.
The diaspora.
Yes, it's probably not that, but people respect something that we offer, and we try to, whenever we go to other countries, we try to fit in with those, but also bring something of ourselves. And I think that has been a very, it's been hugely important.
You've been so kind to me in this interview, so I'm going to give you this chance. In Jakarta, you call for more Indonesian students to look at Ireland for higher education and stuff. What do you want from Malaysia?
Well, I think we want to build a long-term relationship, and we recognise that long-term, it's not just about sending students to study in Ireland, it is about a much deeper collaboration than that. So we would like to form partnerships with universities. We would like to see Irish students doing some of their study in Malaysia, just as Malaysian students do some of their study in Ireland. I think that strengthens an education system to have diversities of cultures and of outlook within the education system. So there is a huge need for small open trading economies like our own to build an educational connection with countries like Malaysia as a precursor to perhaps collaboration in other economic activities. So it's the most valuable way that we can start, and it's been an area where Ireland has a tradition through the, many of the priests and nuns who have been a party to the development of Malaysian education system in the past. It's absolutely appropriate that we build partnerships for the future as well.
One of the co-chairs at the World Economic Forum ASEAN in Hanoi 2018 was the foreign minister of South Korea. And so I asked her this question: Gangnam and K-pop, all this has been, have they been really the ambassadors of the country? And she said they've done more than the diplomatic corps. So your rugby, your football, the Irish artists and songs that we've heard, and we keep on hearing about the Ireland diaspora in the Hollywood movies. How do you think we could work better with that?
Well, I think that's part of our character. We do like to enjoy sports. We are a gregarious nation. We value our culture. We like to see it exposed to strangers. So it is part of our nature. I suppose being small, you have to fit in, but you also hope that those that you go to live with appreciate what you bring to the party, and that's the sort of intercultural I suppose harmony that we believe ought to be promoted.
You're among the first few government leaders and ministers who have been to Malaysia Baru. So I would like to have your views on the new Malaysia, because we think what happened on May 9 was very historic. Nobody was hurt, no one was killed, and we had a very big and huge transition.
Yeah, no, we are really impressed by the strength of the democratic institutions that you have built here. I mean, there were many. I know there was a lot of tension before the election, and I think it has been conducted in an exemplary way. I wish the new government really well. I think they have exciting agendas of reform in all sorts of areas, human rights, as well as in education, as well as in economic diversity. So I really wish a new government well. It is a challenging time in global terms to be entering government, and I hope that we can build strong relationships between Ireland and Malaysia with the new government, and we look forward to that collaboration.
Thank you so much for making
No,
time.
thank you.
My personal request, if you have time, please meet our youngest minister at the age of 25, because he's in charge of sports and youth education.
Oh, very good.
Grassroots development of Ireland. We can learn a lot from rugby and football.
Yes.
I think thank you so much,
No,
Mr.
no, thank you.
This has been a very special recording with a very, my good friend from Ireland, Minister of Education and Skills. And this has been a special recording of Agenda AWANI right here at the Asia Euro Institute of New Malaya. See you in another episode very soon. Goodbye.